With the way this episode progressed, you might have been able to call it I Can't Believe My Assassin Is That Cute, but I have to say, the first thing I want to talk about is without a doubt my boy, Ryder looking mofo, because the fact that he had the most dramatic exit after last week, because we had two letters, right? One, I'm going to go on a journey. Two, I'm going to go kill myself. And I love the fact that the least important mission out of the two isn't the person who is going to kill himself, but the person who is going to run away. And I love the fact because he is so ridiculously strong that his dragon-like skin cannot be pierced by normal weapons. And the fact that the only scene we see him is just like all these different knives and his like abs are literally shattering it. Holy shit, I was not expecting that. I honestly thought like that would be the priority of this week because, I mean, when you hear about someone gonna kill themselves and that man is such a badass, even though he probably wouldn't do it, I thought he was gonna be on a cliff or something, right? But the fact that he just was so down the dumps and that his daughter is the reason why he'll probably be okay while you take care of the assassin, I was like, that's like the most brilliant way to establish why it's okay to just leave someone who's trying to kill themselves alone. But for the most part, this episode was dominated on the third out of the four, because obviously with the way the pacing and the directing has been, each of the main four generals here, we're going to have at least one episode that was going to be focused in on them. So to have Myrnaeus kind of be like the center of the focus for the first like 7 to 8 minutes of the episode, it wasn't anything too exciting, to be honest. It was kind of just more downtime, but kind of connecting on a deeper level. So while it was important, there's not a lot to say about that scene of them just kind of sitting on the log. The most interesting thing to me was actually just the idea that, like, Leo wasn't stupid. He knows, like, if this man, like, runs away, I probably won't catch him again. So he locks him in with this chain, which absolutely keeps him there, which was fantastic. But I think what does make that scene nice is the fact that he gives some genuine, like, good big brother father advice there about how, like, hey, if you want to quit, there's no issue with that, right? I mean, if you have the thought in your head, I should quit, it probably means you should quit, but it's not like you should just up and do it. Like, one, do you really want to do it? That's the biggest thing, right? If you don't want to, if you think you'll have any sort of doubts, then you're clearly making a mistake and you need to work on the issues you have rather than throwing away something you actually like more than you dislike. But if you do hate it, I mean, maybe you want to punch your boss in the face. You know, maybe you like your boss, you want to train the person who will replace you. I love how there was some genuine real-life advice that I think anyone could take influence from, because he was absolutely right. If you truly dislike where you're at, you should probably find something else. You shouldn't be stupid about it. You shouldn't just toss it away unless you have something next in line that can help you. But I love the fact that it was just kind of grounded in realism, despite it being a kind of goofy, comfy scene. And then to see what came after about how 3 days, we're going to train someone who's going to learn communication because I'm going to have to give interviews. It's a pretty basic kind of like social anxiety, but I think the more basic something is, I think it's easier to relate / connect with what a character is going through. And for a character who apparently wants to exterminate humanity, that's a pretty great way to kind of give some humanity to someone who wants to take it away from everyone else. And I love the idea of just like this maid outfit and being a waitress, right? And just because it's actually a pretty great way to get someone who has no communication skills to have communication skills. I mean, years back, I worked for a brief while as basically tech support, right? So I had to answer phone calls. And that was a great way to go from not enjoying answering the phone in previous jobs to, you know, doing it for 8 hours in a day. And it really does help you. And I even took some of that, like, kind of how I would speak into my videos in the future, right? So I love the fact that putting someone who doesn't like really talking and doesn't like asking and feeling how people are experiencing things as a waitress, I thought was a pretty great way to make them go outside their shell, right? And the fact that it's not like even being pushed back that if there is scumbags who are trying to feel you up and are being an asshole, I love the fact that there isn't an issue with breaking their arms and sending them to the moon because that's what they deserve. And had our other bro not been trying to kill himself, these scumbags would have never even talked that much shit. They would have been put in line, right? But with the man who's supposed to discipline them no longer around, you kind of get these scumbags out on the loose. They would probably be amazing soldiers on the field because they're just hungry wolves that are going to act like shit on the battlefield. But when it comes to being just generally good people, they are farthest from it. But I love how there wasn't even like this hatred that like, oh no, you know, we're trying to teach you to be a master communicator. No, there's some people who need their arms broke. Those were them. But for the most part, just like the idea that even like recommending food. I like how even Leo himself is recognizing it's similar to Lily, right? The fact that they already had the basic skills needed, they just needed that one push in the right direction. And I love how Leo actually took his lesson from Lily, thinking she knew absolutely nothing, and applied it with him. So I thought it was a nice kind of learning growth for even him himself. But the idea of ending the episode on a pretty dramatic thing, all things considered, the idea of I'll answer anything you want as like a prep interview. Okay, do you really want to destroy humanity? I think the answer is going to be no, because ultimately, someone who's been the hero for seemingly like a long-ass time, we don't know exactly how long, because last week does show us what looks in most shows to be a more futuristic modern version of the world we're currently focused on. But given the similar architecture and everything, most likely what happened, there must have been some war that kind of caused a post-apocalyptic looking world. It's just a matter of, is this man being reborn King Arthur style whenever the world needs him, or does he have a ridiculously long lifespan that he's continued to protect this world? That's a big question for sure. But I think no matter what happens in terms of the direction they go with Leo's character, he's someone who's protected humanity. There's no way just because he was pushed out, he would immediately turn his tune that quickly, though I do think he could grow to hate humanity. I just don't think, given the now two different hints of him saving the world, both with what we currently started the show off with, and the hint that they showed us last week, that he could immediately be that much of a festering hatred. So I think he's very much in similar line to the Demon Lord, and it'd be interesting to see if it's full-on love, full-on hate, more in the middle, and I think that'll be an interesting topic, because for someone who is a complete opposite to the Demon Lord, wants to exterminate humanity, but now is being taught by the person who protected them for so long, honestly, that answer might shape him more than anything else that probably he's ever experienced, to be honest. But I do like how each of the generals, they do have their own personalities, and they also are overcoming shortcomings, I find. Like, there's a very brief moment in this episode when they're sitting around the table discussing where to go next, and Lily almost calls our boy Leo, but she catches herself, because she has that like childlike, naive innocence, and I'm glad that it's not always like other characters saying, don't expose it. She's learning herself, which makes her not as annoying as she could be with that personality of a childlike innocence. She's actually learning. She improved in her own episode, and also in these kind of like different scenes, she's also not as childish, even though she still has that innocence, which is a nice added touch. I do think, though, whenever we do get into our boy's suicide attempt, I do think there's going to be an action scene, because I almost feel like there's no way someone who can literally break knives on his abs, we don't get a cool fight scene. We got like a quick little tease in this episode in terms of like, you know, the assassin jumping and everything. And I'm hoping we will get a fight between these two, because those two would just be absolute beasts in terms of like hand-to-hand combat. But overall, good stuff. I am very much enjoying I'm Quitting Heroing. I think it does have a really good identity. I love Leo's voice actor. In fact, I might go as far to say, you know how there's certain shows that always have like the, you know, Kirito's voice actor or Eren Yeager's voice actor. You know how they always get like these big roles? Honestly, it would be fine if like Leo would be like a staple in terms of the isekai fantasy hero protagonist voice, because I think he does such a great job at capturing both innocence, maturity, and a little bit of a neutral tone all at the same time, and I absolutely love his line delivery. But thoughts, if you have any, what do you hope to see in next week's episode, especially with the little bit of a cliffhanger they dropped here? Let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. Till next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.